What if I told you that self-care isn't Pilates at 5 a.m. or bubble baths and face masks and sheet masks in the evening? Don't get me wrong, these things are nice and could be helpful, but when it comes to real actual self-care, there's just a lot more to it than that. The older I get, the more I realize that happiness isn't just like a character trait. It's not an issue of like this person's a happy person and this person's not a happy person. Like, you actually have to do the things to get happiness, if that makes any sense. Like, it is an option. It's not something you have or you do not have. And sometimes life happens and throws you off your game and you're just like not feeling yourself, and you start feeling like no matter how bad you want it to happen or no matter how bad you want something to change, you're just stuck in the same loop, or you're just stuck feeling the same way, or just going through the same experiences. And in these moments, it's so important for you to go out of your way and do the things, and actively do the things that restructure and reframe your thoughts in your mind so that you can be happy for yourself. So let's talk about 6 things you can do whenever you feel stuck. This cannot be overstated, but positivity has to be my first point. And at first, when things happen that don't go your way, like, it's gonna be so hard for you to want to accept any sort of positivity. Like, you just want to reel in all the negativity and just be like, this sucks, like, why is this happening? Like, this is so bad. But you have to, like, I don't even know how to emphasize it. You have to expose yourself to so much positivity, more than you've ever before, because half of the time you're not gonna want to receive it, you're not gonna even hear it, you're not gonna accept it. But you have to constantly put yourself in places and in situations that are positive to uplift your mood. I feel like a lot of people mistake positivity and optimism for like being delusional, or like being delulu or like being unrealistic, but it's literally the opposite of it. It's like accepting things are as they are, but like it's not always gonna be the same way forever. Like, things are gonna change and things are gonna be better. So when I say positivity, I'm not asking you to be delulu or like be oblivious as to what is going on around you. I'm asking you to encourage yourself, or find ways to encourage yourself that it's not the end of the world. You know, while we're on the topic of positivity, I thought I could share some of the podcasts that I've been listening to lately that have really struck a nerve with me. The first podcast recommendation is Boundaries, Burnout, and the Goopification of Self-Care on the Ezra Klein show. This is the podcast that I listened to that really opened my eyes to realize that self-care isn't all what social media makes it seem. And of course, like, I feel like everyone has an idea of that, but I feel like doing all these little things, like having the green juice or doing the long skincare routines, is just like addressing the symptoms and not the actual cause of your problem, if that makes any sense. In this podcast, it's an interview. The interview is with Dr. Pooja Lakshmi. I'm really sorry for butchering this name. It talks about how real self-care is about deep internal work that is outlined by 4 major practices: setting boundaries, practicing self-compassion, aligning your values, and exercising your power. I'm a fitness girly. I hate to say it like that, but it is what it is. I'm super into fitness, and I like to do my research whenever I can to know exactly what I'm doing. So the next podcast recommendation is actually one based on fitness, and it's by Dr. Andrew Huberman. I don't know why I can speak. On the Huberman Lab podcast, and it's science-supported tools to accelerate your fitness goals. I really like this podcast because it was very apt. It was very rich in knowledge, which we love, and I got actual actionable advice from it. And basically, it talks about different fitness tips and practices that you can implement to achieve your personal fitness goals. Like, if you're super interested in hypertrophy or you want to gain more strength, you can expect to see proper results, and you don't have to follow every single plan that you see on social media or buy plans on social media to achieve stuff. You just have to, like, you know, go out of your way to get all this information. I know this isn't super linked to like self-care or happiness or whatever, but I find that whenever my fitness is tip top in terms of like I'm moving my body and I'm happy doing it, it really does elevate my mood. It might be something that is worth taking a look and taking a dig at. I really don't want to go into details. I think you should listen to the podcast yourself to like get the information you want from it, but it's a really good podcast. And he also talks about supplements like creatine and stuff like that. It was super important for me to listen to it because like you see all these ads on social media and all these fitness influencers promoting certain products, so it's good to know for yourself if this is what you need. He actually recommends taking creatine, so which is good, but I just feel like it's a good listen regardless to just understand what the supplements are doing and how they're doing whatever they're doing. So the last podcast that I want to recommend today or talk about is it's the show Hidden Brain. The topic is Healing 2.0, what we gain from pain. This podcast was about unpacking the popular statement that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. My main takeaway from this podcast was that experiencing trauma or anything painful doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a better person for it. What really determines whether we grow from going through trauma and pain is really our belief system and our mentality and our mindset towards everything. And that's why some people lean towards religion or having a deeper belief, because it really roots them and guides them through it. But that was the main gist of the podcast, and that was the main thing that I took away from it. So you're only as good as how you choose to see your situation. Also, growth from trauma or anything painful or anything sad to go through doesn't necessarily mean you're just wiser or like a better person. It could look like having more empathy and more compassion as a person for other people and for yourself. I lied. That wasn't the last podcast I had to recommend. This one is kind of different. This is How to Get Rich every episode, and it's by Naval. It just says Naval on Apple Podcast, but I think it's just the Naval Podcast. I think I appreciated the fact that he defines being wealthy or defines wealth as freedom, not necessarily being able to like buy the fanciest car or whatever. And I feel like as I'm aging, I just graduated, guys. Like I'm starting to lean into more of like how I want to build my life. I'm still trying to talk about that. But it is something I'm seriously considering and looking into, and I really appreciate the fact that he defines wealth as freedom. The freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want. And that's just something I can get behind, because that's really a goal for me, to be able to live and lead a life where I call the shots, I was also going to recommend 2 books that I've recently read. I hope I'm not cramming things down your throat, but this is the kind of stuff you need if you're going through stuff. Things that are going to change your perspective. You just have to feel more positive and more happy about yourself. Self-pity is literally the worst thing you can do to yourself. This book, 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do, really goes to highlight a lot of things. But one thing I took away was that self-pity might actually be the worst thing you can do to yourself. When you feel sorry for yourself, you're coming from a place where you feel like you deserve better. But when you practice gratitude, you're coming from a place of, I have more than what I deserve. And you start to see the mindset shift. Gratitude is one of the ways you can curb self-pity. When you start to focus on what you have rather than what you don't, and what you have going for you rather than what you don't, it really shifts your perspective. One tip that I really took from this book was when you are feeling bits and bobs of self-pity, because everyone goes through those stages, but the important thing is to not wallow and stay in it. Whenever you think bad things always happen to me, you want to sit down, pull out your journal, and make a list of all the good things that have happened to you. Read through all of those, that regardless of all the bad things that you're going through, these are the things that are also going good for you. So you get to replace your original thought with something more realistic, like, yes, bad things are happening to me right now, but look at all the other good things that I have going for me. And this is what I mean. Like, positivity isn't being delulu. I'm sorry, I really like saying delulu. Positivity and optimism isn't about being delusional. It's about being realistic with yourself, because your brain tends to overanalyze and overestimate the problems and the things that you have going wrong for you, that it shines in overshadows the good things that you have going for you. And positivity just seeks to bring that good side out a little bit more. Your alone time doesn't necessarily mean you're shutting yourself away from the world and not interacting with other people. It's none of that. It's more of like paying attention to your inner self and doing the things like meditation and journaling that really help you. And meditation and journaling are other two things that I feel like you can be doing to help you get out of your funk. Meditation shifts your perspective. I don't want to say meditation and come at you from the angle of like you have to sit down with your legs crossed and sit for 30 minutes in complete stillness and silence. I think it's a lot less complicated than that. What I do sometimes is like I do this on my Apple Watch. It has this mindful function where you just breathe for like a minute. I think you do a total of 7 breaths, like inhale and exhale, and that really just grounds me. So like doing things as simple as that could really elevate your mood. In the book, she talks about how meditation has been linked to many emotional benefits, like helping to reduce negative emotion and gain you perspective over stressful situations. I am looking down because I'm reading my iPad and all my notes that I have for this episode because I do my homework. Progress isn't always a straight line. Sometimes you have to take a few steps forward and take one back, and sometimes you have to take a couple steps backwards and take one forward. Progress is never gonna be this linear thing. I saw this like really nice TikTok, I think, that even with ups and downs, compared to like a ball going on a straight incline down, you get there faster with the ups and downs. This is such bad analogy right now. I think I'm just gonna look for the video and pop it up. But that just goes to show that the fact that it doesn't look or it doesn't feel like you're growing doesn't mean you're not progressing. Take your notes, girls. Okay? Last thing on this book, and then we're gonna move on, is giving up control actually makes you stronger. When you stop trying to control every aspect of your life, you'll have more energy for the things that matter and the things that you can actually control. Okay, I lied again. This is the last thing I'm gonna say on this book, and we can move on. I really want to highlight the fact that I didn't think about all these things from my head. I literally read about it. And this is an example of why I think exposing yourself to as much positivity as you can is super important, because it's not everything that you're gonna absorb and believe and just like work through, but there are just certain things that are gonna stick and are gonna go with you. Mental strength means knowing you're gonna be okay no matter what happens. Growing strong mentally doesn't necessarily mean you ignore all the bad things that are happening, but realizing that regardless of however bad it is, the fact that you're still alive means that you're gonna be okay regardless of what happens to you. This book is called All About Love by Bell Hooks, and this book changed my life. It changed a lot of my perspective on things. I'm not gonna go into too much detail because I already kind of gave a mini spiel on my TikTok, but basically it talks about how love is this guiding force through life. It helps us know how to treat ourselves and the people around you. The major things that I took away from this book are: 1, your community is important. You need people in your life, not because of what they can offer, but because of what you can offer to them. The more you serve people, the more fulfilled you would feel, especially if you're in a place where you feel like your hands are tied. Serving others and showing love to other people is one way of feeling useful again. And as much as you should practice solitude, you should also practice serving other people. Woundedness, pain, struggle, it's just a place of possibility. Your woundedness, or what you think of as an insecurity, for example, doesn't necessarily have to equate to shame for you. It could mean a space for growth and awakening. It's not gonna feel like that in the moment. It usually does feel like that in hindsight. And this is where your belief system is super important. The book also talks about how the divine has a major place in our lives, and especially when it comes to the space of love, because everything is guided by love, and I don't have the energy to go into details about it. I would just recommend that you read this book if you do not believe me. But there are just certain things that you go through emotionally, especially, that you're not going to be able to make sense of until you tap into the divine and you rely on your beliefs to get you through certain situations. So all of this just goes to point that your belief system and everything is super important. So far so good. I spoke on positivity and exposing yourself to positivity and how that helps restructure your mind, and I shared like podcasts and books that I've listened to recently that have helped. From those podcasts and books, I also mentioned another point about meditation and journaling. and kind of tie that to like spending time by yourself. One thing I would say about journaling though is journaling makes your thoughts more real, and that helps you to be more realistic with yourself. Sometimes the things that we think about are just way bigger in our heads than what they are, and when you put it down, you get to analyze it and be like, is this real? Is this true? What am I gonna do about it? What can I do about it? Can I fix it? Can I not fix it? And if you can't, you know you gotta move on. Remember what I said about control. When we give up control, we have more energy for the things that we actually can focus on. I guess this leads me to my third point. Eating healthy and eating whole foods is super important. If you're eating junk food and you're just eating whatever, you're gonna feel like it's gonna amplify all the bad ways that you feel about yourself. And I find that when you're going through stuff, like you already feel very heavy in terms of like there's a lot on your mind, you feel very shitty, your self-confidence kind of goes through the window, your self-esteem goes through the roof. The things that you can actually control are the things that you actually expose yourself to, like the foods you eat, your personal hygiene. And I know the easier thing to do is to want to just eat whatever, do whatever, take a shower, never, like it might be the easier thing to do, but you actually have to force yourself to do all these things that are good for you. So eat proper meals, take a good shower, have a simple yet realistic skincare routine. And this is where all the things on social media could fall into. It's not the fix, it just helps, you know? My next point is to just have a very simple routine. Routines are very important because they ground you. A routine doesn't have to look like A, B, C, and D steps. It could literally be like, you know what? I want to be able to do this one thing every single day. I get it. It's really, really hard to get yourself to do certain things. And some days are just gonna be like, you cannot do it. But you always feel better for it. If it's just reading a chapter of a book that you love, do it. If it's making yourself a cup of coffee every morning, so that makes you get out of bed, and stepping outside to get a bit of sunshine, do it. And this leads me to my next point, sunshine baby. Dr. Andrew Huberman agrees with me here. Or well, I agree with him because I got it from his podcast. Exposing yourself to sunlight in the morning, especially in the morning before 10 a.m., according to Dr. Andrew Huberman, actually really helps with your circadian rhythm. I've not really done my research on circadian rhythm and stuff like that, but I think it's what controls our moods and our when we go to bed and all of that. But I think just going outside and just moving your body in the slightest way really, really ups your energy. It's gonna be really, really hard to do, especially when you feel loaded with so much, but I really want to encourage you to do it. And I think like if there's anything you can take from this video is you kind of have to do the things that you don't want to do to feel the way you want to do. I've been going through something really personal for the past couple weeks, and it's been really hard to do the things that I know help me. But the minute that I started doing the things that I know ground me and help me, it doesn't change the situation, unfortunately, but it makes you lighter on your feet. It makes you more happy to be alive. It doesn't really, I wouldn't say I feel purpose in like everything I'm going through yet, but I do feel a sense of I'm gonna be okay. And that's the point of this entire video, to make you feel that regardless of whatever you are going through, you can make your way back to yourself and give yourself a big hug and let yourself know that you're gonna be okay no matter what. Saying all this makes me feel like making this video was more for me than for you guys, because I feel like I really needed to hear these things from myself more than anybody else. I've had family try to like encourage me, but it's never the same. It has to come from you. This is your big internet hug for me. Like regardless of whatever you're going through, if it's like physical, or if it's like mentally, or if it's like emotionally, like you're gonna get through it. And I just hope I can encourage you to put yourself in a better headspace to be able to be there for yourself. Because if you're not, I promise you, whatever anyone else is doing is never gonna be, it's never gonna hit, it's not gonna be the same. So be there for yourself. You need it. I know there's lots of self-development noise and self-growth noise out there today, and everyone has a version of what you should do and what you shouldn't be doing. It's not about how many books you read. It's about what you take from the ones that you do. If you only read 5 books, but you can reread those 5 books over and over again until you master everything that has been said, you're doing a lot better. I guess what I'm trying to say here is you don't have to take what I say today do. And I've given you so many points today, and the point is to show you that you have options than to feel shitty. You have resources available to you that would help you. The point of this video is just to encourage you to take them. See what sticks, see what works for you, and stick with that. Even if it's just the one thing you can do and you can do it well, do that, baby, okay? Do it. But I really just want you to feel like you're not alone. Everyone is going through stuff. Everything's gonna be okay. You're gonna be fine. And you're gonna be fine. That's all I can say. Like, and I don't want to say too much because I've said too much already, but I love you. And it's so easy to say that, but honestly, you have to get yourself to the point where you can believe it. And don't let things that you go through dictate how you're gonna feel. You can do this. You honestly can. And I'm rooting for you. I just want to wrap this up and tell you thank you so much for watching this video. I am a chatterbox when you give me the chance to, but I'm really happy and glad that you let me speak to you today. And I can only hope that you got something from this. And again, I'm rooting for you. I'll see you in the next video. I forget to introduce myself every time, but my name's Itunu. I make videos about anything, so feel free to stick around and enjoy the ride. This is so cheesy for me right now. I cannot. But I'll see you in the next video.